Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Rodical Thinking. I'm joined in the studio once again with Reed Griffin. Hey, how you doing today, Reed?
Hello.
Oh Lord. All right, and we're going to be doing a somewhat serious subject today. Definitely something that Reed, I know personally, is really into. We're going to talk about a tough subject, and um, we're going to just say at the start of the show, parental advisory. If you have very young children, you may have to have a discussion about some of the topics we're going to have to talk about next. We're going to be joined in the studio by a guest, and today's topic is going to be on sex trafficking, and how easy it can happen to someone and how prevalent it is in our modern society. We talk a lot about slavery, but we never really talk about sex trafficking in those terms, and I don't think people understand how big of an issue this really is, even in 2018. Uh, Reed, I don't want to tell your story, but I know at one point you wanted to do a documentary about this.
Yeah. There was an organization that I got involved with, actually, oddly enough, from a band that came through when I was living in Amarillo, and they were promoting this organization that they were tied in with called Red Thread. They're kind of a group based out of Nepal. Well, they're based in America. They were in Abilene, Texas. Now they're somewhere up in Minnesota, I think now, Minnesota or North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the entire organization is based around the thought of pulling young women and girls out of sex trafficking in Nepal. The borders there are open, and so you can freely pass between with no problem. So the actual trafficking aspect of it is a lot easier in Nepal than it is in other countries where you actually have border checkpoints or security zones where, like when you try to cross it from America to Canada or America to Mexico, you have to go through checkpoints, you have to go through all these other deals. Where in Nepal, you just walk straight through. Like there is no, you've got like a guy that just stands there and he just kind of looks at you, waves at you, and that's it. Um, so what the organization kind of does is they have these girls that they rescue out of there. They bring them to like a safe house, um, give them the mental and emotional support and help that they need after pulling them out. And what they do is they make these bracelets that basically it pays for the having somebody there to be able to watch at the border checkpoints. A lot of times it's the girls that they've rescued volunteer for this aspect of it and go in and look for these girls. I mean, they were in it, so firsthand knowledge for them. They know what they're looking for. A lot of times they've seen it, they've been a part of it. So they're looking for these girls to pull them out of what's going on. So that pays for that aspect of it. It pays for um, the safe house that they stay in, and it also gives them the ability to make a little bit of money. So for them, it's kind of in a sense almost kind of like a halfway house that we would have in America kind of style, but it's more based around getting these girls back into society, back back to their villages and back to their families. Some of these girls, they've ended up going back and becoming leaders in their communities. A lot of them go back and they want to live their lives. It's a hard thing for them to have to deal with in general. I mean, I can only imagine how that is, and it's a terrifying thought. Um, but like probably from now on, the next couple of events and stuff that we go to, I'll probably have these bracelets on me. They normally I sell them for like $5 to send back. I make no profit off of this. It does nothing for me other than to support the organization on that. This is honestly probably one of the first times I've ever talked about this and not lost it and started crying. It's a really tough subject. I mean, when you really think about it, I brought this up to my old youth group when I lived in Amarillo, and a lot of people they don't know this is real. I mean, this happens in America. This happens all over the world. It's not just something that happens in some distant community in some foreign third world country. I mean, this happens in America on a daily basis. I'll try to see if we can get linked down below. There's another Facebook group called Shared Hope International that posts daily about people that have been caught, where these things are happening, and a lot of them are happening in America, right in our backyards, in places that you would never imagine. And it's a really touchy subject that nobody wants to admit is a problem or wants to have anything to do with it. I mean, I can throw statistics at you all day, and that's not. I mean, it's different when you actually meet somebody or you know someone that's been involved in it. That it's a little bit different than just knowing. I mean, I'm not gonna cry. It's a pretty serious subject, and I think it's something that's not talked about nearly as enough as much as we should.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I started doing the research for the show, and one of the things that stood out to me was that the numbers, when they said there were more people in slavery today in 2018 than there have ever been at any point in history. That's a staggering number, especially for me as an African American male. We generationally we understand that our descendants were slaves at one point. So it wasn't like we came here on a boat from a cruise and got off and said, "Man, let's find some job opportunities." There was a story of slavery, and it's been told for many years in America, and we know it from the time we're kids until we are adults. That story in the harsh realities of it. And when I started looking at these numbers, mind blowing.
Oh,
12,000 girls are trafficked across the Nepal-India border into Indian brothels and countries beyond a year. 12,000 Nepalese girls were being moved out of that country. To me, if 12,000 young women came up missing out of America tomorrow, we have an epidemic.
oh yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and to think that's only one country in one year. We had a campaign a couple years ago about the girls that were kidnapped from into Boko Haram. I mean, that was something that played a big role in the political sense and in the news for a while, but it's not talked about any other time than that, and that's where it kind of irritates me in a sense because it's the numbers depending on where you look and which organization or statistical website you look at. Um, you're looking at anywhere from like almost up to 21 million adults and children are sold worldwide into sexual servitude or forced labor or bondage or anything like that every year. And that's a terrifying thought when you have that many people that are going into this. I mean, where did my note go on this? There's, depending on where you look, monetarily, you're looking at well, I lost my note. It's somewhere up in, so there it is, from 99 billion up to $1 trillion a year industry in sex trafficking across the world.
Hmm.
And I mean, what's even more interesting is that we chose today to pick this because relevance plays a very nice role. Last couple days, I don't know if you've heard, but they had that group of veterans that were patrolling the desert,
Hmm.
and they actually found a child sex slave camp in the desert in America. This is actual headline news happening right now, and it's sad that it's happening, but I'm happy that people finally are realizing that it's actually a subject that's real. It's not just something we talk about. It's not just a movie aspect of it. It's something that's still happening, whether it's sex trafficking or trafficking in general or slavery. It's something that we, as a society, we thought we would have moved past by now, but it's still something that's still very relevant even in today's standards, and it's sickening.
No, it definitely is. I started kind of like you. I pulled numbers, and one of the numbers that stood out to me, about 2 million children are exploited every year in the global commercial sex trade. 54% of trafficking victims are trafficked for sexual exploitation. Women and girls make up 96% of victims of trafficking for sexual exploitation, which means that 4% are men and boys
Hmm.
that are being trafficked against their will. And then, let's not even talk about, the whole dark web aspect of this.
Oh man, I could go on for quite a while on just the dark web aspect of that. I mean that's a whole different, that's a whole subject. All that's a whole show in itself,
It
man.
really is. Yeah, I didn't want
Yeah.
to get too deep, but when we talk about the dark web has some. It's called the dark web for a reason. You can't just put in www and go here. These are usually IP addresses that are
Hmm.
not spoken about in public. They're passed along through specific groups you're invited in, and it's not uncommon to find out that somebody's running a snuff site,
Yep.
and that these are real actual murders and rapes taking on place on video, and people are paying to watch it on the dark web. They subscribe to these channels like they would uh, something like Netflix, and you watch women and men and children be exploited, and
See,
it
that's
exists.
honestly like one of the reasons. I mean, politically, however you fall, that's fine. I'm not going to go on a spill either way. But I will say I am actually proud of, for the first time in a very long time, with our leaders that we have, Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. They finally, God, finally passed a bill back in April to actually combat this online. Finally, it only took decades to finally get this, but on April 4th or April 11th of this year, they finally signed a bill into act. If you want to go look it up and read it, that's great. I'll give you the number for it. It's HR 1865. Um, it allows states and victims to fight online sex trafficking. So one way you can kind of tell that it's actually hit is if you go look, if you go to Craigslist, which some people are familiar with, and you go into the personals pages, all those are gone. They took away all that. The strictly platonic side was used for a lot of trafficking in a lot of larger areas or border towns coming in and out. There was a lot of movement going on, and the police, you can only do so much. Even if you report it to the authorities, they can only do so much with it before it's the internet's gotten to the point where it's really easy to hide, and that's why, especially with the dark web, they can't bring a lot of these websites down. I mean, you look at Silk Road, that was really big there for a while, and when they took it down, they came up with Silk Road 2.0 within like a week or two. It was already back up, and
Hmm.
then once they took it down. Now it's back open again under a different name and different websites now. So I mean, now they're finally giving authorities the ability to be able to fight this on multiple fronts instead of just being, oh well, we can only do so much. There's finally a bill that was signed. So whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, communist, whatever, I really don't care. I am super happy with all parties involved that voted for this to get this signed into an act. Like, thank you. Finally, you stood up for the people. Thank you.
Yeah. No, because what it did is it made those websites responsible for. They could also be financially responsible for being able to have those pages there.
Hmm.
I know, and I told you about personally where I met someone, guy I used to work with, would go from town to town when I was out traveling on the road, and he used Backpage.com, and I was like, "What is that?"
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh, it's like Craigslist," and I said, "I've never heard of it." But what he was using it for is when we were out on the road traveling, he was meeting women that way and
Yeah.
setting up stuff. And I thought, oh, so you're like setting up dates, with these women. And here I am, a grown man and naive as hell, because I had no idea what he was really doing until he explained it to me. No, this is prostitution digitized. And I was like, what? I had zero idea, bro.
Well,
And we're
what's
talking about,
crazy
that's
is-
2013, 2012.
Yeah, they actually days after that, probably 3 or 4 days after they signed it in, they actually arrested 7 executives for Backpage. One of the articles I had here was they arrested them on 93 count indictments that alleges the website facilitated prostitution and laundered tens of millions of dollars in profits, and that teenage girls were sold for sex on the site. Some of them were killed, apparently. So I mean, the government has moved in now, finally, and they're starting to move and seize houses. They're seizing bank accounts all around the United States. So it's finally to the point. This actually gives me goosebumps talking about this. It's finally, people are starting to stand up, and I'm happy that people are finally standing up for something that actually, in a sense, really matters.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we trivially argue and fight about small things that really, in the grand scheme of things, don't make that big of a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are some that people are fighting on the front lines right now that I agree with completely. Like, you know what? That's something that needs to be said. That's something that needs to be stood up for. But for me personally, this is something that hits really close to my own heart. That it's an important part of something that I'm glad I can be a part of to help combat. And I mean, even just a little bit of it, you know, it's just.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. And one of the things I'm going to share with you, when we talked about this, I'm like you. I think when I was talking to some people about the show, one of the young ladies told me, well, when you say sex trafficking, I think of movies like Taken. It's a Hollywood plot point to some people.
Yeah.
But they know it exists, but it's so far removed from them. And I hate to say it, I was one of those people. You know, we always play a game called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, and it's like, oh, Kevin Bacon in 6 steps or through 6 people can be connected to anyone. And I think we do that in our life with situations. You know, we think we do 6 degrees of separation from all the bad things. Oh, that may happen to some people, but that would never happen to me until it's your child, until it's your family, until it's in your household. You don't think about it. And the guest that I brought on today is going to share her story with us. Harper, thank you for coming on and joining us today.
I'm sorry.
Nervous. You get real nervous, don't you?
I really do.
It's going to be cool. We're going to talk to you about this because you told me a story that it blew me away. I'm going to just be honest. Just to kind of sit there and talk to you about it and hear your story, that this wasn't somebody I saw on TV. This is somebody I've known, and they were telling me a story of how they almost got brought into this life.
Well, I am a sex worker, which is a little bit different than what we've been talking about. So
Yeah, and so let's go ahead and talk about this. So you work in a gentleman's club,
yes, sir.
and you're a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
How many years you been doing that?
6 years.
So you've been there 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So were you in that same industry when you were approached by this person that tried to bring you into this life?
Yes.
Okay.
That's pretty much how it started.
All right. So go ahead and tell us. I mean, because I don't even want to really get into it. You just tell us, how did it happen? What happened?
Well, I mean, I was introduced to sex working in 2012
Mm-hmm.
through a woman actually that I'd met on social media, and I decided to take the offer because I wanted to move out of my hometown
Right.
to another state, and it seemed like easy money, and it was a lot of money, but it took a lot out of me, and
Mhm.
it's still hard. I'm still in it, and I wish I wasn't. It just takes so much, and you kind of get addicted to it, but then you get stuck in it, and it's hard to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And you meet people, and some of them are really good people, and some of them aren't. And unfortunately, most of them have been not so great. And but that's also partially my fault because I trusted too many people when I shouldn't have. And I don't know.
So let's go ahead. Let me ask you this. So you were at work when this person approached you?
Yes.
So did you beat them through someone, or?
No, it actually, Meta and myself, I had sat down and started talking to him. And at that point in my life, I was really down too. And I didn't really know what to do, and I was always seeming to be like broke or whatever, and this person offered to help me get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I accepted it at one point because I really, like, I needed help at that moment. And you really don't think about stuff like that whenever it's like in the moment happening until you've already done it. And so he was a pimp, and he told me he would do all these great things for me. And of course, I'm kind of glad that it happened, but I'm not, because now I have a prostitution charge on my record. And well, actually, because you were talking about Backpage and all that, like,
Mm-hmm.
the girls, they go on that site, and then guys will come and pick them up, and they'll like go to hotels and stuff. I was actually never on Backpage. The two girls that I was with that he had introduced me to were,
Mm-hmm.
but the first guy that came into the room was actually an undercover cop. So I had never actually done any of...
You never did any of the sex part of it.
And it was really scary. And I am really grateful that that did happen. Because what if I did get stuck into it, and I would have just been even deeper into a situation that I don't want to be in.
That's frightening, because I think everybody, I know I've been there, Reed, I know you've been there, everybody I know has been at a point where you struggled financially, and you just wished something could break it or change that struggle, and you're just like, you can't even see the future, all you can see is the right now. What did he say to you at that point? Did he ask you about, what were the words he put together to make you say, wow, this sounds like he's really going to help me to make this money?
I was pretty new too it happened it happened like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But he could just tell that I was vulnerable, and that he could probably manipulate me, or like get me to easily do something. And I mean, he seemed like just a regular guy. He was good looking too. And I don't know, the things that he said to me, and they weren't like, when someone tells you that they're like gonna take care of you, when you really when you're at like the lowest point in your life, you kind of just accept it and hope that it works out or whatever. And I don't know, he took me to get my nails done, and he bought me clothes and shoes, and then it didn't get too far, cause
he was just throwing money at you, and
well, not really at me, but I mean spending money on me,
mm-hmm.
so that I could like get ready for going to the hotel and like meeting men or whatever. And it was, I don't know, it sucks, but it happened, and I can't take it back.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of happy with the outcome of it, though, because I didn't get stuck in it.
Yeah, you said that to me many a times. You said it to me the first day we talked about this, is that you were really happy that the first person was an undercover. So so you're in the room. Let's go to that moment then, because this seems to be a moment that changed your life. You get to the room with this guy.
Well, he actually doesn't go into the hotel at all. I was there with two other girls, and
mm-hmm.
because I never done it before, he got me my own hotel room that I could stay there, and he gave me a phone to use,
mm-hmm.
and he told me that like just stay there, and the girls like they'll come up whenever when a guy is like ready or whatever. And one of the girls came up, and And then shortly after, a guy did show up, and yeah, it was the undercover cop. And he arrested all three of us. And because I didn't really know the girls or the guy, I didn't really know his full name or anything, so there wasn't much I could tell the cops. But I just remember being in jail, and I was in there overnight, had to get a PR bond and get myself out. And then after all that happened, he called me and asked me why I didn't depend on him to get me out. And I was like, you've already what more could you I don't know.
You've already got me arrested.
Yeah,
with you.
And why should I trust you to actually get me out of jail? You did the other two girls, but I don't know. And I didn't want anything to do with them anymore after that point. And he hit me up a couple times after that, and I see him at the club actually that I still work at.
So where you dance currently, you've gone in there, and this guy has come in there, and he's aware of who you are.
Oh, he's definitely aware, and so are the other people that work there. They know fully aware of who he is and what he does.
Wow. So it's not even a secret in the industry what this guy's about.
No, there's more of them. It's not just him, and some of them aren't even men. There's women out there that do the same. That have escorts that they
working for them.
Yeah.
So the pimp game is men and women that are preying on these young girls and catching them at a vulnerable spot and putting them to work. So you say this, so that are you telling me a lot of these young women are also working in these in these gentlemen's clubs?
Not all of them, because there are. Well, I guess they shut down Backpage, but there's still other ways to get a hold of girls and that don't work in the club. And now you have social media, and you can put yourself out there on that. There's Snapchat. There's different ways to just meet up with people that do the same thing. They just don't do it in the club.
Wow.
So it's not specifically just in the club.
So it's a big issue then, basically. Here in 2018, there's still sex trafficking is going on.
Well,
they just digitized it a lot.
It's a little bit different than sex trafficking, because these people are
some are doing it willingly.
They're willing to do it.
Yeah.
It was their own decision, not forced into it, and I'm sure there are cases where they are forced into it, and they don't know how to get out. But I definitely chose that decision.
So you made it. You were like, this is not forced. You were just in a situation where you were vulnerable. Somebody came through, promised you something that glittered and it looked gold, and you took the bite.
Yes.
Wow. Now, when you went through the whole thing, you're out of jail. Does your family, does anybody close to you know about it?
I actually don't live near my family, and I was an hour away from my current city.
Mm-hmm.
But I got my phone back, and I called one of my friends, and they picked me up. Then
they asked questions about why they were coming to pick you up from a different city or anything?
Not really, just because, I had just gotten out of jail, and it was kind of a touchy subject. But it was discussed, but they weren't
So they knew you just got out of jail?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a tough conversation to have with anybody. Now, after going through that, to me that would seem stressful. Did you have nightmares about it? Were you uneasy? Did you have any stress, post-traumatic stress from it?
I wouldn't say nightmares or anything, because it's definitely, like I said, it was all my decision, and I did it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of dealt with it. It sucked, and I did think about it for a lot after that time, and I was especially still working in the club. What happens again whenever I'm not financially capable? What am I gonna do next? Or
That's tough. That's a tough cloud to have over your head, because you've already known that I've already thought about doing this once, so it's easy to say I could do it a second time. So yeah. So the fact, I'm gonna just go ahead and ask, when's the last time you saw this guy? How recently have you seen him?
Actually, the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you we're talking, this happened 4 years ago, 2012 or 2014? When did
2014.
So 4 years ago, and you still saw him, we're talking in the last 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I mean, he always asks like, what I'm doing, like, why am I still here? I should be doing better things. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not doing better things with you because I'd rather be here in a safe environment than somewhere out there where I don't know who I'm going to meet or what's going to happen.
Right. Man. And so now I know you were telling me you have a friend that's actually, they escort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they chose that life.
Oh yeah, she loves it actually. I mean, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But I think she just enjoys more of the aspect because she's just a sexual person, and that's her way of, I don't know, it makes her happy. So.
Okay.
But I don't know, it's not for everyone, and everyone thinks about it differently.
Right. I think that's actually refreshing that you said that, because I don't think, I think a lot of times we hear all the horror stories. I never think about somebody may have chose that life, and that's something that brings them joy that they're actually happy doing. They're working.
She's
That's
one
their
of the
job.
first people I've actually ever met that really enjoyed escorting.
Wow. That's fascinating. Reed, any questions from you, man?
Yeah, just, I mean, kind of. What, I guess, if the club and everything kind of is aware of the guy, I mean, what is there, are they not,
I mean,
do they not just say, like, hey,
he's
type
there and
thing,
he
or is
pays
it-
money, so basically that's all they care about is getting paid. And he's not taking any of their girls out of the club. If anything, he's bringing their girls in the club, which just puts more money into the club for the people that own the club.
Oh, so
Is that-
some of the girls that work for him are also dancing there. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of curious where the line kind of was there. It kind of seems that it's a little bit,
A lot of people just like turn their eyes and just, I don't know, act like nothing is going on.
But that's very common in our society.
Yeah.
That, and I think that is part of the problem, is that a lot of times we turn blind eyes to things that that we know are there, but hey, that's somebody else's problem, or hey, I'm not supposed to notice that because somebody else is approving of that. That's tough. That is definitely tough. Now, have you worked multiple clubs or some other clubs around town?
I've worked around, I've traveled, and I've worked, and they're all different. I don't work at fully nude clubs. I don't really prefer those. Just topless, and I pretty much stay at the same club that I've started at.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I don't know, I'm just so used to it, and it's kind of like my family almost, because there are people there that I really enjoy being around.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing it for 6 years, and I stopped going to college. And I could have paid for college. I could have saved every amount of money that I made, but I didn't, which is one reason why I went through half of what I did. I spent it carelessly, and I got in a lot of things that I wouldn't have normally have done.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that they were all my decisions. No one ever forced me to do anything.
Wow. Now, do you think any of the other girls, are you sure, I mean, are you 100% sure that some of them aren't being forced into where they are right there?
I mean, the girls that I work with, they're definitely there because they want to be. And I think that's, sex working is a lot different than
trafficking. Because
Yeah,
there are
well,
sex
definitely.
workers, or, hey, this is my job. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure somewhere out there is someone being forced into dancing, or making money for, I don't, maybe working in a club, but for someone else. But I've never met any personally.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know you told me one of the things is, when you were there in the city where you got caught, did you say one of the girls was pregnant?
Yeah, one of the girls that I was in the hotel with, she was pregnant, and actually with the guy's kid.
So she was pregnant with the pimp's kid.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a tough one, because now you got to think, not only, I mean, yeah, there's inherent risk with anything, but still there's a risk for, sexual disease, and then,
Oh, definitely. I mean, but condoms are definitely always worn. Well, what I was told, anyways, because I never actually got to do
The work part, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh my god. And you're actually not supposed to take the money from the person's hand. It has to be laid on a table, and it is a gift. Because if not, then it's prostitution, but there's like a whole process to it, basically.
Wow. So it's like, oh, he left that for me as a gift, but if you take it from his hand, this is now an exchange of goods and services.
Yes.
It has now become a retail transaction. Okay.
Legal loopholes.
Yeah, that is really. But you still got do they list that as a Class C misdemeanor?
I think
or
mine was a Class B misdemeanor.
Class B misdemeanor?
If I'm not mistaken, I honestly can't remember. But I'm pretty positive it was Class B misdemeanor.
Okay, cool.
Definitely a misdemeanor.
So what do you see yourself doing 2 years from now? What do you want to do?
And that's another thing. I honestly don't know. Because I think about it and I'm like, I make really good money, but what if I go back to just being a waitress or something? And I would still be getting, I would have cash in my pocket every day, but not the same amount. And that kind of scares me.
The money is good.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as good as it used to be, and definitely better than not having any at all.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's better than flipping burgers. Just being honest. It's, the burger game is not for everybody either. It's not. Not everybody wants to be at McDonald's wearing that outfit, taking fries, and, helping America get fat, so.
I could always still go to college and everything, but I'm pretty young still, so the more I think about it, the more I get stressed. And, yeah.
That's tough. No, man, that's the real. I mean, you're keeping it real, and I appreciate you doing that and coming on the show and just being honest with us about it. This is so tough because, I mean, I'm looking at you, and there's like, people don't see it, but I see the stress sometimes in your face just as you're thinking about it. Just thinking about it bothers you a little bit right now. Yeah. So, no, I understand. Reed, you got any other questions, bud?
Not off the top of my head, no, sir.
All right, man. Well, Harper, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. Seriously.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on and just sharing that story with us. Because I don't think a lot of times, like, I would have never known that until you told me. It was rough. Like, I felt like that story blew me away. I could tell. It got close. So it was one of those things where it's like, man, I knew you. I'd known you for several years, and then when you told me that story, I just learned it in the last few weeks.
Sometimes it doesn't bother me to say it, but then when I sit down and actually think about it, obviously I'm really upset, but...
Yeah. Well, no, definitely don't want you to get that way, but I do appreciate it because somebody's going to hear this story. You don't know how many people... One of the things that Rodical Thinking is about is that we hear your story, and your story helps the next person.
Well, and it's either going to be positive or negative from whoever. But
yeah.
Hopefully someone will find something out of it to help them.
Get what you need from it and let it help you. I do appreciate you just coming on and talking to us about it. Reed, I'm going to partner with you. I think a lot of people know that we do our work with Team Lift, and we'll be out at the cons. I do know in the summer in July we're going to be doing Tokyo and Tulsa, Anime Austin. We're going to be at a couple of cons. Let's get some literature and let's set up some stuff on the table, and let's really focus on this being something that Rodical Thinking is going to partner with you moving forward. And this is going to be something where if there's any way I can come out and speak for you or do anything for you, you let me know, because I'm going to partner with you on this. And any way I can help you to achieve that dream. I know you want to go to Nepal and do that documentary. I'm putting it on record right now in front of God and the world. I'll go. If you need me to be your guy on camera that talks and does interviews, I'm there for you, brother.
Dude, that would be awesome. I would really like to. I mean, it's really interesting to hear Harper's story on this, because I think it's something like, some people know how this works and kind of like some of the stories from people that they do know, but they don't understand what's really entails. And I will tell you, like, I'm bravo to you. And I mean, I'm very impressed that you have enough courage to be able to talk about it, because it's not an easy subject, and I can hear it just even through headphones. I can hear the amount of like emotion that's through that. You know, it is a very trying time in your life with what's connected to that point. You know, and so I'd have on that. So bravo to you to at least be able to speak out about it for other people.
Yeah, seriously. Well, man, I think I don't know what else we can do here. I think we really kind of opened up that can of worms, and I hope that people are listening. If you have questions for us, definitely reach out to Reed or myself. We'll try to put some contact information under this on the YouTube page. So on the Team Lift YouTube page, they're going to have a channel for the Rodical Thinking podcast, and we're going to start putting those under there. But I just want people to be able to reach out to us and get the information you need. I want to say it's redthread.org.
Redthreadmovement.org.
Redthreadmovement.org. Also, another good website was enslaverynow.org, which is really working worldwide to end all trafficking and slavery. Also, yeah, like you say, very few times we can really say anything good about our government, but Democrats, Republicans working together to get HR, 1865?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to get that pushed through. Bravo to our government, and really to cracking down and helping these people to achieve those better lives, man. It's been a tough thing. It was definitely a tough subject to talk about. Once again, Harper, thank you for coming on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And if you ever need anything, you know me, player. You reach out to me. You already know how to get a hold of me. But here for you, any way we can help you out in anything. If you decide that you are looking for a career change, let me know. I'll write you a reference letter.
Sure.
I got you.
Thanks.
Cool. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Rodical Thinking. Reed, thank you for coming on to the show with me. Always a pleasure working with you, brother. We will be back next week. We're going to be still just going out there and talking to people, and hopefully, like we say, if each one helps one, who knows? All right. So, on that, I will close out the show and say thank you for listening, and hug your loved ones. Peace.